Working in this industry is my passion. It is my purpose. Jojo Oliveri, Maverick. Hi, welcome to J Curve, the podcast. It's the business of property management. And I'm super excited to welcome back Alex Karafiloff from Flk It Over, who's been a guest on our show before. And Alex is now back in Australia. So welcome, Alex.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
It's good to have you back, that's for sure. So tell us what's been going on.
Oh, lots been going on. Last time we spoke, I was living in LA and took a bit of a European vacation, and now I'm back in Sydney full time. So it's super exciting times. I'm with a prop tech company called Flk It Over, which I've been a very big fan of in the past. So it's really exciting to join the team here.
Yeah, no, that's great, and a great addition to the team. And it's a great service. A lot of the clients that I work with consulting on their business operations are using it, and I've got to say I'm really impressed with the way it integrates with programs and just the seamlessness of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I when we spoke earlier, I'm a very big believer in terms of the company I work with and align myself with, and talk about their product. It has to be something that I would use in my own business if I had a property management business. And you're right, it's something that seems so simple, but at the end of the day, our entire industry starts and ends with a signature. So making that process seamless, efficient, easy, compliant as well, a really big thing especially in recent times is compliance. Is really good. So yeah, it's amazing to be able to work with a property management company, sales agents, and help roll out something that's going to really help them.
Exactly. And like we always say, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. And this is in writing and with the signature added to it. So there's no doubt.
100%. And the thing I really like about it as well is, like, if you're using it and it's integrated with one of your systems that you use, it's going to automatically save back most of the documentation that you're getting signed or that you're issuing to a tenant, a landlord, a buyer, any of that. So it's going to automatically save that back to your source of truth, which I'm a really big believer of. Making sure that products integrate with each other, especially going back to that source of truth, your CRM.
Oh, that's exactly the terminology I use. That's why my eyes went up, because, like whatever CRM, whatever property management program you use, that is your source of truth. That's the past happenings and the future happenings. That's everything that's been going on, financially and also operationally. So, that is the source of truth, but that's the data. It's what we need to do with that data and how we make what we do efficient and compliant, and mitigate any form of risk or liability, to make sure that if we're supposed to have a contract signed, it's signed. And we've got a way of making sure that it's done by the correct dates. And, from what I see from Flk It Over, it just takes away all the guesswork out of it. And, and the signatures can be done on the phone too. So, yeah, share a little bit more about it, because there's a lot, in Flk It Over.
Yeah, I mean, it's a super exciting product to talk about. There is so much functionality in there that even I myself, before I even started, I didn't realize how much functionality there was. Like, I was a fan of it and I've used it in the past in property management, and I still didn't realize how much there was. So, I mean, to start off with the basics, like, you have the functionality there to do it on your laptop, desktop computer, mobile phone, iPad, you can be sitting at an appraisal with a potential landlord and literally fill out the particulars of the agreement and the information
Yeah.
from your phone and send
Yeah.
them the link for signing right then and there. You can
Yeah.
collect the information that you need to onboard a client properly within your business. You know, your strata details, your bank details, instructions for disbursement, instructions for paying expenses in the property. Most importantly as well, which is I think the really biggest puzzle piece that often gets overlooked, is that vendor identification process.
Yes.
That's more so New South Wales specific. With that, but I think that's a really important puzzle piece. Like you can obtain the identification and proof of ownership details in a secure form, and a form that's going to delete the records of that private information, so you're complying with the Privacy Act.
Yes.
For me, that if I was a BDM again, that was my biggest pain point as a BDM in Sydney, is having to try and chase up those docs. Properties weren't getting listed until I had those docs. We're talking about something that makes a difference of getting a deal done or getting a property listed in a matter of hours, or something that can take days. And that's what we're talking about at the end of the day is time. You know, that's been a consistent thing throughout every single conversation we've had or the industry's having, regardless of what aspect of the industry we're talking about. Time is always the issue. And something that's making it even worse is compliance. Which then leads me into sort of what Flick does, is we have the compliance guardrails built in. So if you're sending out a notice for termination, if you're sending a rent increase notice, or you're doing a lease agreement, it's going to tell you the parts that you've missed and that you need to add, supporting documentation you need to obtain in order to ensure that what you're sending out, what you're issuing, what you're signing is compliant. More and above just having fair trading knocking on your door and slapping you with a fine, something that's going to help you in tribunal as well with tenant disputes.
Exactly. That you know, like the proof of ownership, Alex. I've you know, like I've been involved in the sale of rent rolls, and even just doing audits with the companies that I consult with, and the number of proof of ownerships that are missing is frightening for the business owner. To think that you know, one simple document is slipping through the cracks, and that one simple document is going to cost them big time because they don't have it. You know, it's a concern, but it shouldn't be happening because, you know, when we look at the simplicity of what Flk It Over offers, it is just it's almost like a tick and flick. It really is.
100%. Like you've hit the nail on the head. And I think we're seeing an increase of scrutiny on the property in the property industry, like both for sales and rentals. We've always had that, I guess, with legislation changes, but after every piece of legislation that changed, especially last year, now with on the sales side, the anti-money laundering laws now be taking effect for real estate agents, and real estate agents now having guidelines and obligations, we're seeing that there's a huge a view and I guess looking at the real estate industry and scrutinizing the real estate industry a whole lot more. So I think moving forward is
Most definitely. It's like monumental responsibility that is now upon the real estate industry that should not be overwhelming to them. It should just be part of a process. And, you know, what technology has done is it's made it very easy for us to manage this, far easier than what it was back in the day when we didn't have all this legislation, but we still, you know, like we had to get the forms filled out correctly. And I can tell you, there is a lot of management agreements that were not filled out correctly, were not even signed. So, you know, it's amazing what slips through the cracks, and people are kind of, you know, bury their head in the sand. It doesn't happen to us, but it does. And if you've got something, a program like Flk It Over, which honestly I don't think there is anything else like it in Australia, you know, it eliminates all of that risk and liability. It's a final kind of like verification check at the end of the whole process to say it's all done. So, yeah.
100%. And it's funny because, not really funny, it's actually frightening. I have been doing a lot of research into, I guess, myself reacclimating to the Australian property market, but I've been doing a lot of research, and 50% of agencies are audited by Fair Trading, and 75% or more are actually found in breach by having not prescribed documents or missing clauses from their documents. So it's a really frightening number. We're talking about, anywhere between $2,000 to $10,000 per penalty here as a fine for the business. So it's something that can't be overlooked or have your head buried in the sand anymore, because this is going to actively cost you tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, I've always said this, Alex, is that if an owner then comes upon their management agreement and there's something that's not right in it, if they were kind of like smart, then what they'd say is, you've been managing my property with an incomplete contract, so therefore all the money I've paid you, I should not have paid you. You can refund it back to me. And they're quite within their rights to do that. I mean, obviously there'd be a legal case around it. But it is frightening to think that there is a lot of, contracts that are incomplete out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, at the end of the day, we all want to get that signature as quick as possible. Like, it's no one's fault. It's not something that anyone is maliciously doing. It's just hard to also keep track of legislation as it changes. And so like having a provider, and this is something that I'm really passionate about, having a provider or having coaches, mentors, ecosystems within your business to shield yourself from that and to make sure that you are doing the best possible job in keeping up with this is so important. And it's tiring. It can be tiring, but that's why tech is here to ease that burden. It's like no one's alone in I think we're really lucky in this particular industry to have such a great ecosystem of vendors and tech providers and coaches and consultants that we can lean on this ecosystem to ensure that we are protected. Like, there's a lot against us, but there's also a lot of help on the inside and support of the inside. And so that's something that I'm really passionate about continuing and advocating for in the industry.
Yeah, I'm 100% supportive of that, and we've got little dings and things going on here. Yeah. I mean, Alex, the thing is, we're not the only industry that's got all this legislation, the burden of legislation and change. We're in a changing world. And, because we're in such a rapid change, in so many areas of industry and everything, we've got to be prepared to do that. If we want to offer property management, then we've got to be prepared for this change and not push back on it. There's nothing you can do about it. You need to adapt the technology that you need in order to fulfill the requirements of that, change or legislation or requirement, whatever it is. We've got to adapt and implement and make sure that, it is being overseen to ensure that we are compliant in everything that we're doing. Can't turn a blind eye. Ignorance is not an excuse. Cost is not an excuse. If you're in business, there's business costs. And what I hear a lot of the industry saying is technology is costing us money. Well, technology is just part of business. And technology, if you implement it correctly, is saving you money because there's, more and more areas where it's easier to do things. The manual side of doing things is becoming easier. So therefore, technology is like a cost neutral, or it's a cost, like you're making money out of the technology. And I think this is an area where the shift needs to take place in thinking to say, oh, not another technology cost.
I agree. Like it's honestly, it's easy to default to that. I get defaulting to that. There is a lot of technology out there. Like even myself looking at how I do my day-to-day job, when I look at AI tools that are out there, I've got so many tools I could potentially use and everything costs money. So like I understand that mindset, but it's really making sure that we're looking at, okay, what are the things in our business that are super important that we cannot overlook? what are the things in the business that are costing us money if we don't do something? I listened to a podcast recently, and they were talking about how the cost of ROI versus COI. And I was fascinated about it. It's shifting that, not so much talking about ROI anymore. It's more so talking about COI, the cost of inaction. And that, I think, is really important, because we are always talking about ROI on things, but what is actually the cost of us not doing something?
Yes.
And that's what we look at. And when it comes to Flk It Over, particularly, the cost of inaction is quite high, because we're talking about legal documents. We're talking about the things that pull together a binding contract between parties. This is not something that is a nice to have. It's something that is always going to be in our industry. No matter what role we are doing in the industry, we are always going to have it. The world revolves around signatures. Real estate revolves around signatures. And talking about time as well, you know, what I remember when I was starting out in property management, I mean, that wasn't that long ago, to be honest with you, Joe. I was like PDF editing my lease agreements. I was going through 16, 17, 18 pages, how many ever pages there were, going through each one, making sure I crossed out the right clauses, making sure I added in the right things about the pets, making sure I did all of these things and going page by page. That took me so much time to prepare a lease agreement. And then also 7 out of 10 times it was incorrect. So I had to redo it. So when we're looking at a simplistic solution like Flk It Over, you're pulling most of the details that you can from your CRM to fill out your lease, but then you're also answering a couple of quick questions, or you're going through the process of answering, you know, is there pets? Yes. Okay. What clauses do I need to add to that? You tick the clauses, and you're not editing a PDF. You're going through what I like to call like a kind of like a Google form. You're answering the things about the tenancy, you're inputting the data, and then it generates it for you. So for you as the agent, you're saving a lot of time. You're making sure that you don't have to reissue these documents. If there is an amendment that needs to be made, it's as simple as the client clicking the cross button, adding in what needs to be amended, and you fixing it, and the link gets reset. You're not having to double up and redo whole documents. So you're saving a lot of time in that whole process. And then from your client side of things, the way the agreement is structured, it takes them through the particulars, like window by window almost. So then that way there's no gray area in terms of the term, like in regards to the terms of the agreement. It's everyone's on the same page. Everyone knows exactly what everyone's getting paid, the obligations are, etc. And then they sign and initial pretty much once, and then that gets input on the PDF document final. So you're not sitting there with a tenant and going through page by page, making them initial the bottom of every single doc or every single page. That, again, saves time.
Exactly. Like nothing is in the grey. Everything is black and white, and it's the grey that gets us into trouble every time. So,
I think I've lost some audio.
Oh, I can hear you. I can hear you. So while
Not too
Alex
sure
finishes that,
to hear.
I can hear you. So yes, so nothing is in the grey, and it's always this, you know, like this human error that has caused all of the, you know, like heartache, if you like, the stress that property managers have when, you know, someone else has done the contract and they're suddenly looking after their portfolio, and they're thinking that the other person did something wrong because you know, there was never really any process around it. So we always blamed someone else. But this is what I call exactly what you were referring to. I call it the intangibles. Those things that cost the business money, but what they're looking at is, what is my ROI? It's like, you're not taking into consideration the intangibles, the lost productivity time, the blaming, the justification, the clients who decide to take their business elsewhere because they're fed up with no one taking responsibility, the damage to the brand. So, you know, it's all these things, it's the intangibles, and I think it's about time the industry actually stopped listening to their accountants who look at their P&L and say, well, like you've got all of these costs, you've got technology and everything. Do you need that? You should get rid of that. You should get rid of that. And, and they're getting rid of the wrong things simply because the business owner doesn't have their finger on the pulse to say, this legislation that we've introduced is saving me time and money in these other areas, these intangible areas. So, technology is part of what our industry is moving towards in a very rapid way. The industry has to embrace and, understand all the intangibles that are being saved as a result of this technology. Never see it as a cost.
100%. And when you look at it, I just did a quick calculation in my head for this because you inspired me here. When you look at it, I guess, a subscription cost for technology, and I can only speak on behalf of Flk It Over, but, the top tier plan, which gives you absolutely unlimited stuff, you're looking at a cost of, it's $3.10 an hour. It works out to be $3.10 an hour. You're paying a property manager, I just saw a job ad in Sydney, Joe, that's paying a property manager 170 grand per year plus comms. That's what we're talking about in terms of salaries now. I mean, that might be an outlier, but, that works out to be, I wouldn't even be able to tell you, probably close to $100 an hour.
Yes. Wow.
So we're looking at $3.10 an hour to do something that has no human error and that has compliance guardrails and make sure you're not going to get fined even more thousands of dollars or it's going to affect your intangibles, like you said, and $100 an hour to get someone to do maybe the same job. Like, let's call it might take 15 minutes. That's still $25 that you've spent on doing an agreement.
That's exactly right.
Not including
a quick calculation.
Yeah. Like, we could probably dive deeper into that once I have a bit of time to process it. But, it's easy to get caught up in like sticker shock. 100%. And that's so fair. Like I said, economically, people are struggling. We do have, rising costs within business and life, etc. But when we're looking at comparing what we're doing now compared to how, if we use this product, it becomes a bit of a no-brainer. And that's, I guess, the education, what I urge a lot of people. And I think we're getting there, to be honest. I don't know if it's just me. I see a lot of content on social media and podcasts by business owners that do talk about this stuff, that are putting that message out there, mostly in other industries. But I think us as an industry, we are very good at absorbing a lot of information and we always are trying to be better and learn. Yes. So it is something that I think is starting to change, and I'm hoping it will change. Yes. But yeah.
I think, you're right. They're starting to have their eyes open, but still cautious. And we don't have time to be cautious anymore. That passed many years ago. And I, met with a business owner this morning he's like, I had a conversation with him 5 years ago when he started his business, and now he's come back and he said, Joe, everything you said 5 years ago, I should have done. And he said, I don't know how much it's cost me by not listening to you, but let's just get this done now. But his salary costs are more than 50% of his income at the moment. That's a no-no.
Wow.
So, we've got to really kind of break things down to build it up again, because even the roles of property managers have changed. And, I did a podcast in Texas just a couple of weeks ago, and, what we discussed was really quite exciting, frightening, but exciting, that, change is so rapid at the moment that what we're doing today in 3 years' time, it's going to be outdated. That's how fast change is happening. Yeah. And the industry has to be agile enough to move with that. And property managers have to, embrace this, because it's better for them. So, yeah.
100%. And I mean, that's a philosophy that I think extends beyond a lot of just real estate agencies as well. It's something that I know is the reason why we focus on agreements and being a forms provider and an e-signature platform, the legislation is shifting so much state to state and also Australia wide. We need to focus on that because it's important. We're not going to try and do 10 different other things, and because change is so rapid and so quick, like you would have to have so much staff, and even then it might not be enough to keep up with it. And that's why you do have to outsource. But going back to real estate agencies, that's why you do have to outsource that stuff, because I mean you have so many things coming from every single direction at you. You have, you've got to be better on social media. You've got to have your marketing. Then you've got, P&L and your accountant and costs, and then staff and employment laws, privacy information, AML, property management legislation, trying to better your service, systems, procedures, processes, like that. To be on one person's shoulders, I think whoever's out there listening to this and does it all themselves, you're a superhuman. Like that is insane. That is, I wouldn't even know if you sleep at night, to be honest with you. But that's why it's so important to have these resources available and to speak to people, like Joe, or to use products like Flk It Over and have this ecosystem that's shielding you, that's protecting you, and that allows you to, I guess, sleep at night and operate as a business.
Oh, definitely. You're spot on. Like business owners have to be nimble and agile and very open-minded now. And, the big word I've been using for the last few years is courageous. They've got to be very courageous in what they do, very forthright, like this is what we're doing, march forward, because, we've got to march with the change. So, if we've got courageous leaders, then the teams will follow, because they see the courage in that leader to actually say, we can do this. And, we've got the guidelines and guardrails around us to support us to do this. So, like intimidation and non-belief, that all needs to be eliminated from the industry. And just be courageous and look to the future, because I mean, I'm an old duck. I've been doing this for over 30 years and I've seen so much change in the industry, and every time it happens, I must be weird, but I'm just super excited about where it's all going. So, never fear where it's going, because it's like man walking on the moon. I mean, that was scary, but now look, they're up in Mars. So
100%, 100%. And
yeah.
honestly, that's something that being in the US and being in Australia and being back in Australia now, it's something that I've noticed is pretty consistent in the industry, is that like anytime there's change, there's a lot of hysteria.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, oh my God, what are we going to do? How are we going to survive?
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter, and this is something I tell myself personally, is I remind myself, if it was 6 months ago, a hardship I was going through and I thought I was never going to see the light at the end of the tunnel, here I am today. I'm fine, and reminding ourselves of like, we are hit with so many proposed legislation changes, even more if anyone's listening in the US, so many more in the US. It's mind-boggling how different it is, and how it varies city to city. It's crazy. But there's so many proposed bills or legislation changes, amendments to legislation that, like, it doesn't all go through.
Yeah.
We're here we have a voice at the end of the day as well, and an opinion, and we have industry bodies. But at the end of the day, if something comes into effect and it's passed, we will be okay. We have this whole ecosystem that we can talk to and get advice and make changes. And like you said, as business owners, we have to be courageous to tap into those resources, and courageous to say, hey, I actually don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Can we please talk?
Exactly.
I think there's a lot of courage in that.
100% a lot of courage. It's like, put your hand up and say, I don't understand where this is heading. What do I need to do to take my business that way? Or my team are, not embracing something. How can I help my team to embrace it? So yeah, I mean, there is a lot of support. There's a lot of people like you and me out there who are working really hard to understand how, technology impacts and influences and creates better ways of doing the do that we do. So, don't push back on it, like embrace it and be the early adopters. Don't sit back and wait any longer. That kind of thinking just won't support a business anymore. Where those people, I used to call them the laggards, would, sit back and it's like, let's just wait and see what they do. Like times are changing. We've got to be nimble and agile and keep rolling with it. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I mean, if we go back to the whole it's about money argument, I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't have compliant management agreements, for example, and you're selling your rent roll, you've just lost a couple of thousand
that's right.
bucks, if not
Yeah,
more,
yeah,
and that might not be a now problem, but everyone is in business, I guess, to the goal, I guess, if you're a business owner is to sell eventually, especially if it's a rent roll, that's an asset of yours.
yeah.
So, I mean, we need to start future planning and future proofing and planning for that legacy. And I mean, it's a pretty important thing, management agreements and lease
Oh,
agreements and all of that. Like that literally affects your dollar amount, your multiplier. Um, and I mean, I guess I don't know how we're doing for time, but one thing I'll add on with Flick, which I really like, is we have this bulk PM functionality. So if you are, selling or buying a rent roll, we have the services in place to be able to bulk re-sign your management agreements,
that's
and
amazing.
that's huge. We're
Mm,
talking again about time it takes to settle,
mm,
for example, and money that you're getting paid as a business owner for your rent roll. And
yeah,
for the purchaser, that ease and peace of mind of, okay, great, I've got 100% of MAAs re-signed. I'm good to
yeah,
go.
yeah. Well,
Uh,
like there's just all these reasons why it's a no-brainer. And, like you're in business to, have a great brand and achieve the vision and everything you had why you went into business. As a business owner, you've got to make the decisions. And when you make decisions, you've got to be the one that makes sure it's implemented correctly in your business and the team are using it and the team are embracing accountability. Because, as you pointed out, Alex, one little mistake, normally that mistake is multiplied a
yeah.
hundred times over. So, yeah, I mean, Alex, the good news is Alex and I kind of like bounce off each other really well. And Alex and I have got this great understanding. We've both worked in the US and, Alex is back in Australia. I'm here in Australia at the moment, but I bounce between the two countries. So I think, like people will see that Alex has got so much to share. He's got so much knowledge. So Alex is going to be a regular on our podcast. And yeah, you'll see a lot more of Alex, not just talking about Flick It Over, but talking about the industry in general and, where technology is taking us. And, Alex is going to share his insights and, his future forecast too, because you can see Alex makes sense.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's a huge ego boost. But no, I'm super excited to do this. I love chatting with you, Joe. And I mean, like you said, we bounce off each other. We have great conversations, and I'm excited for people to listen to us and
Yeah,
hopefully get something from it, which is
most
great.
definitely. Most definitely. And so yeah, we'll always make sure that, our listeners can reach out to you or myself. And I know although Alex is representing Flick It Over, Alex has got a wealth of knowledge as well. So, reach out to Alex. I think Dolly will you put some information in the podcast on how to reach you to get some, more information. And likewise, if you want to kind of like ask me, I'll say only good things because I've seen it in action. Um,
Thank you.
so yeah, I think if you've got a business, you need Flick It Over. No brainer on that. So yeah, Alex, anything you'd like to say as we kind of like close out?
Just that, like you said, my details will be on the podcast. So if anyone does want to reach out, I mean, this is something, the industry is something, this has been the only industry I've really been in since starting my career. So it's something I'm super passionate about. So yeah, feel free to reach out. And again, I'm not going to just try and sell you a product, but like if you just want to have a chat or anything like that, yeah, really excited to be a resource here, and yeah, look forward to getting to know everyone.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for joining us again, Alex. And yeah, look for more of Alex and his insights. And if there's anything that you would like Alex and I to chat about, please send us an email. And we just love chewing things through, don't we, Alex?
We do. We could talk for hours.
We could, and we have.
That is true.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time on J-Curve, the podcast. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to J-Curve, where we spotlight the journey of growing and thriving in property management business. Reach out and be part of the J-Curve community. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and hit subscribe so you never miss out. Let's grow together on J-Curve. See you in the next one.